Hey, welcome to Fire Engineering's Humpday Hangout and to our show, the issues and challenges of today's fire service. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, along with my Humpday Hangout partner and co-host, Assistant Chief Terry McGrath from the Louisville, Texas Fire Department. We've got another great show lined up for you. If you have any questions, we always remind you this. If you have any questions, fire them off on Twitter, and we'll do our best. We always try to do our best to get to as many as we can. Sometimes we can't. Make sure you add hashtag FE Talk, Frank Edward for Fire Engineering Talk. So hashtag FE Talk. Today, Terry and I are hanging out with some good friends from Fire Engineering Magazine. Pete Brocchio. Pete has been with Fire Engineering. We'll talk about this a little bit for a while now, and is a very good friend of ours, very good personal friend and professional friend of mine. And I'll do some more bragging on him later because he's pretty incredible. And we got from Flower Mound, Texas, Brandon Barth. Now, Brandon, and he'll do his background as well. He's a emergency management coordinator, PIO there, but there's a lot more to his career history. We're going to have him kind of do some bragging on himself here. But before we get to our show, kind of remind you the FDIC, the deadline for FDIC this Friday for submissions. I've had the honor and privilege of serving on the FDIC advisory board for over 20 years since they bought it, since Penwell bought it. And every year, a few people, wait till like the last minute and turn theirs in. And here's the problem: if you wait to the last minute, if you hit a snag technology-wise, that's what we're talking about today. If you have a little bit of an issue, you run out of time, and then you're begging and talking and trying to get a hold of people. And we're talking a couple thousand class submissions. So, if you're interested in teaching FDIC, please go ahead and submit by Friday. Get it done, fill it out. I will tell you this: if you put like a 50-page bio in there, I'm not going to read it. On the other hand, if you put nothing in there, we're not going to read it either. We need to see what you want to do and how you're going to do it. But we really want to see some. We're always looking for new ideas. We really want to see you get your stuff turned in on time. So this Friday is the deadline. So we want to get your stuff turned in for FDIC. So our topic today, as we're kind of hit towards already, is social media, using today's technology, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and not just social media. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of different things today. But that's it. And welcome everybody. Hey guys.
Hey Chief.
Hey, well, Brandon, let's do this. We'll start with you, and then we'll jump over to Pete. Brandon, for our viewers, and we're going to have a ton of people that watch this afterwards. A lot of different folks right now. They may be on a run or whatever, but a lot of them watch the recorded version. So, if you can, give us a little background on you, buddy.
Absolutely. My name is Brandon Barth. I'm Emergency Management Officer for the town of Flower Mound, Texas. My current other duty as assigned is also the PIO. My background is in the fire service. So while a college student in Georgia, I began working as a fireman, and I did that for about 6 or 7 years. While there, I also kind of wrote a plan to the chiefs of how we could try to start using social media. That was kind of early back then, early 2000s, really trying to get Twitter and stuff like that involved in the fire service, trying to, pub ed really isn't pamphlets anymore. And so trying to utilize that. And then my wife's job brought us out to the great state of Texas a few years ago. And I thought I was going to try something different. Well, that something different was hazmat in the private sector for a few years. And then I was kind of yearning to get back into the public sector. So I've been here in Flower Mound for a little over 3 years and enjoying every minute of it. And we have a great communications team that backs us up for social media.
Well, you've got a great department too. Terry knows this because he's right next door to you. And you guys always run. I know in class, every chance I can, when I talk tactics and strategy, when I talk departmental relationships, like there's a couple of stories I tell. I always talk about those departments that show up at your calls. That when the guys show up, you just smile because they're good guys and gals. They don't care what the assignments are. They don't care. They're awesome. And that's Flower Mound. That's Lake Cities. That's the county. That's all. We're fortunate with those departments, but you got some great people. I love Scott Funderburg, Billy Mack, Mike Baldry, two of my favorites, and you got a great boss. Eric Reeser is always on a mission to get that next new cutting edge thing, to get to be out there doing something different. He's been awesome. So you got a great boss there as well.
Yes, sir. Great team all around. Yeah, pleasure to be here and work with some great folks. Absolutely, we got a great region.
And Terry, you guys, I know I know you're running with Flowermont all the time. I know how much Louisville and Flowermont have a great relationship.
Oh yeah. No, it's been a lot of fun, and I tell you, they've got a kind of a boost in the arm over there. Chief Greaser's come in, and it's a fun place to watch. They got a lot going on, and it's the relationship has always been really, really strong, and I think it's stronger than ever now. And so we're very fortunate to have the partnership that we do.
Perfect. And Pete, my buddy Pete. My buddy, Terry, I refer to you as Elroy. I think you're one of the only guys that know that the Geek Squad calls you for advice from Best Buy. You get me dialed and everything. Pete's the other guy, and I know the two of you probably get pissed off every now and then. Really, the only time he calls me is when he needs something. But Pete Brocchio from Fire Engineering. Pete, you've been my good friend for a long time, and my partner. We did the Pride and Worship podcasts. The podcast before we had a radio show before Humpday, when the podcasts were just kicking off. Golly, I mean, and back then we thought that was pretty cool. And now look at where we're at. Pete, go ahead and give us a little background. There's a ton of things I know you do at Fire Engineering.
Sure, I'll try it. You can hear me over the fan here in the Penwell Fire Engineering mothership. In Jersey, with that fan going. It's like 80 degrees here. I know you guys, you can't take the heat. But,
That's winter.
No, I'm Pete Procolo. I'm as you can probably tell, I'm not a fireman. I'm just a civilian who has the privilege of working very closely with firemen. I'm the fire engineering web guy, and I help work with, with Bill Carey and Chris McClune and some of the other guys. We're responsible for the stuff that goes on the various websites that Penwell owns, including Fire Engineering. So that's pretty much my background. I've been here 10 years, and I approach it from a different standpoint because I'm kind of on the seeing what the civilian media is, how they approach, the fire service, and it's a completely different angle, I guess, than firemen looking at, So.
Well, we've always, and again, this was Terry had a great idea to talk about this topic. Was I think we've always been a little. I'll just say it, we've always been a little behind in the fire service when it comes to. I was all excited when Periscope came out, through Twitter and I got that from my friends at Fox I work with. I was all excited about that because I'm finally on the ground floor of something newer. I'm the one that 10 years, it's like, okay, I just started this, and now they're starting something else kind of guy. But I think we've always been behind when it comes to, you get to see a ton of things with Penwell, with everything you do. And you were very modest about what you do because I know how much you do. If there's something cutting edge, if there's something new coming out, you guys are the first ones to see it. I think you really are.
And to be honest, a lot of these technologies, the technology is always going to change, but the central point of all these technologies, like you said, Periscope, there's Periscope, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, every friggin' thing under the sun. But the one main through line is that they're just a way of communicating. They're a way of telling stories, right? Now, firefighters are great storytellers, right? We're at FDIC, be sitting around with you, Chief Salka, Mike Champo, telling stories. They're like unbelievable, right? And all these technologies, for the most part, are just a different way of conveying those stories. So that's the one, like, never get off foot by, I know now a lot of these technologies seem kind of like old hat, right? But that's all they are,
Well,
but Pete,
go ahead, Terry.
Pete, along those lines, and you kind of bring up an interesting point here, is that it is a method or a means of communicating. But the fire service, obviously, we've got a workforce now where we have different generations in the same building, and so those that sit down and read a newspaper every day. But a guy, a firefighter comes in there, he's 22 years old. He may not even know what a newspaper looks like, to be honest with you. So, but the importance, and I guess one of the reasons this topic kind of intrigued me a little bit is because, first of all, we're using a cutting edge technology to deliver this information today. But you know, if you're going to educate, you have to educate via multi-platforms every day. It's not like it used to be. If you wanted to print a book, there was a process to do it. It was difficult. It was expensive. It was, you know, extremely challenging to do. And that's not the case anymore. But nowadays, everything is immediate. It's fast. And if you're not doing this, you are missing not just the chance to educate the public, not just the chance to market your fire department, but the chance to communicate with your own people. And you probably see that a lot, Pete, in everything that you do, because, you know, whether it's Snapchat, Instagram, you know, WhatsApp, you know, we can go on and on and on, but you literally have to hit on all of these to make sure that your message is consistent and it's reaching everyone.
Yeah, I would just talk about the diversity of audience there. I mean, that's a huge point that you brought up. And I think it goes back to what Chief Lasky talks about as well, is, you know, talking about that pride and ownership as well. Because you're communicating to different audiences via all these platforms, right? One is that, and I think there was an article in Fire Engineering about marketing the mission a while back. And you got your internal audience, right? And your external audience, the public, right? And you know about that as a kind of PIO, but there's also that additional aspect, as you touched on, Terry, of communicating to your own people. And you've got that generation gap now. How are you selling the mission, your mission, and conveying it to your own troops? I mean, that's all a part of it. And you just got to make use of the platforms that exist that are out there.
Well, and Terry, I want you to bring up something we talked about in Houston. Brandon, I was doing some bragging when we were off camera before. Those of you that have watched us before or heard us on our radio shows and had been in the classes have heard us. You've heard me talk specifically about, if you want to see how it's done right, obviously besides fire engineering, but for a fire department, you know, Terry will probably talk a little bit about the Arlington, Texas Police Department. They've got their social media is phenomenal. But when you talk about the fire department and things, I've always bragged about two, specifically Arvada, Colorado, and Flower Mound, Texas. Flower Mound puts out stuff on a regular basis. It's quality stuff. A lot of people don't know how to post it. You know, we'll get to drones, and somebody just hit me about, you know, talking about drones and stuff. We're gonna get to some of that a little bit later in the show here, but people don't pay attention to what kind of pictures. They don't use, Insta size and stuff to make sure that, go figure. But hang on a second. This is going to be. How's that?
Fire engineering subscription service.
You're offline. But anyway, they don't know how they don't know how to resize their pictures. You see them put blurry, you know, you click out and the picture's blurry, which kind of makes you just like, I'm not even, you know, you almost don't want to read what they posted sometimes. Flower Mound, I mean, you know, the ideas for some of this stuff that you've done, the recruiting video. I remember Captain John Wright did the smoke detector ferry.
And I was the guy he kept falling on the couch for all those things.
Well, it was, you know, Pete, they did this video, the flower, but he's in his gear, and it was the smoke detector ferry, because the whole point was, if you're not going to check your smoke detector, you're not going to see, what do you think? There's a smoke detector ferry that comes out there and, you know, does this, and you're good. And he had wings and all kinds of shit. He was and John's a big guy too, and he's pretty good, Brandon. You can tell him this. Tell him Rick says he's good at prancing. But I'm telling you, the hits you guys got on that, and you know, as much as maybe firefighters went, all right, come on, kind of hokey, as we're used to breaking stuff and all that stuff. The public, you guys got a tremendous feedback on and you got a ton of stuff, recruiting videos and everything else, but the public's response was incredible, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, and it was shared in multiple countries. It was shared all over, I think, all 50 states. You know, even seeing other departments utilize it is great. We love seeing, first of all, we love seeing our own folks share it, because then that's the pride and ownership piece of our guys that liking what we're doing. Plus seeing other agencies that are like, hey, that's a good idea. I think I want to share it. call them out. Kansas City Fire Department actually tried to recreate our smoke detector fairy video. It even used the same music, but you know, that's the best flattering. You know, when you're putting out that kind of a product. We just recently did one for July 4th for fireworks being illegal in the town of Flower Mound. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see that, but we have some guys that are kind of dressed like Joe Dirt and are in a muscle car and are getting ready to go out and have a good time. And, you know, when you're trying to pitch these, sometimes it is like, yeah, some of this is a little hokey, but that's what's going to get the person to watch the message. You know, if you just got the guy standing there in uniform reading the facts and something else, a lot of times that's just not going to get that public engagement. You got to have that quick, snappy sequence of events to try to keep them intrigued, because again, we're all in that instant society of where we want to always have that new thing in front of us. And we have a great communications team that helps us with those videos, award-winning videos at that, for a lot of their competitions that they enter. But yeah, we, you know, and then Chief and I will also kind of quality control check each other's posts when we're doing posts on the fire department page, make sure the picture, like you said, is sized right and cropped right, and it's not blurry. So absolutely, we try to keep it as relevant as we can, whether it's public education information, because like I said earlier, printed pamphlets aren't the platform that people are seeking anymore. If it's an incident or significant weather event that's coming, trying to keep that relevant while tying it back into, hey, sign up for our Everbridge emergency notification system. We're always trying to find ways to be relevant, be catchy, and you got to feed the beast, and it can be quite the challenge sometimes. But as long as you tell your story, you've got to, because otherwise somebody else is going to tell it for you.
Well, but that's an excellent point, and one of the things that I had written down as kind of a bullet point for today, because you know, getting back to kind of what I said earlier, but I think that you got to look for ways to, number one, have fun, make it fun, because the vast audience and the way things work today, obviously everybody knows. We can sit here all day long and telling someone to change your smoke detector batteries is boring. It's boring to say it, and it's boring to listen to. I don't know any other way to describe that. But the fact that, I watched that video and, I cringe a little bit and I go, wow, on some level, that's almost disturbing, John, right? And a tutu and but you know what? It was talked about. It was talked about for days and it was passed along. Ultimately, let's get past I don't want to make fun of ourselves. I don't want to look stupid. Did we accomplish our message? And you know what? I think of it in terms of our education program. What do we do, and what's one of the best ways to reach kids to make something stick is put clowns up there. So we do it in front of first graders and third graders, and we know it works. It works coast to coast, and it's wildly successful. But sometimes you got to take a little bit of that and go after adults the same way. But I think that's where you guys, it's a little bit of that out of the box, kind of cringy, whatever, but it's really a great way, and don't be afraid to have a good time with it and make it fun. Well,
and what I was going to bring up too is, Terry, we both know your boss really well, Tim Tittle. Tim is very proactive with the community, very proactive. The whole city of Louisville is always trying to find new and innovative ways to reach out to the public. We talked about Chief Greaser. It takes good bosses, good leadership, because there's a lot of fire chiefs. There's a lot of people out there that are afraid. They're like, they don't understand social media, or they got burned once, or, there's so many restrictions on it that it's like nobody looks at their stuff because, to be honest, it's boring. We mentioned Chief Halton before we went on the air. Pete, you've got a guy that, I know he's got and we always talk about, he always brags on the team he has, the team, his Penwell team. Everybody just, the team. And I know there's so many people, but Bobby is always, he's doing things with you guys that obviously as part of the team that, very few other people in our industry are doing. I've told people, if you want to see what's going on in the fire service, go to the webpage or go to Twitter, the feed, whatever, because there's always something coming at you, in a proactive stance. Sometimes we have to publish stuff where we have nimrods out there that'll do stupid stuff to embarrass us. And I'm not talking, funny, stupid. I'm talking serious, just idiotic, brainless things that, you know what, sometimes we got to put that stuff out there so we can remind our own people, look, this is unacceptable. But at the same time, in a class, they do it in such a professional way. You've got Bobby's just he's always trying to push out new ways of doing things to be the first, right, Pete?
Yeah, and I got to give a ton of credit to Chief Halton, because he is always looking ahead and pushing the envelope, and he's got that hustle that it makes our job here easy. But going back to what Terry had said about feeding the beast, just in terms of the media, and just how the media operates, they are looking for material, right? They're talking about the civilian media. And as I think Terry mentioned, if you don't take that opportunity to tell your story, the absence of information, somebody else is going to tell that story for you. And all these mechanisms are just, ways of getting that message out there.
Well, and exactly, and that's the thing is that like the media will grab the first chooch stand on a street corner. We've seen that. Usually, the most ridiculous, the better.
Right? That's what they say.
Exactly.
Well,
let's jump to this. Let's jump to this real quick, because we got a bunch of things to cover today too. Like I said, we want to. It's going to be everything from. Let's talk a little bit about drones, like I said, a little bit later. But at the same time, social. Let's just talk about. You would think. If a lot of the mediation, a lot of the consulting, a lot of the stuff that I know I personally do. It used to be when you're dealing with discipline and that, Terry, you and I have talked about this a bunch of times about some issues with different departments and that. It used to be dependency problems. They're still out there and some other things, but I'm telling you, that finger that pushes that button gets more people in trouble. So much so the attorneys we work with, guys, we post, there's actually a slide in our company officer academy, Chief Officer Academy presentation that talks about it. It's a quote from that the First Amendment was designed and placed in there to protect you from the government, not from the consequences of your speech. Meaning that you should be able to stand up at a podium and say, taxes aren't fair or whatever, argue your point, but you don't get out there, especially someone who's put their hand up and taken an oath. You don't get up there and post stupid ass shit. You don't get up there and post pictures that make you don't ever post anything that makes your department look bad, let alone someone else. I'll say this, and Pete, you see it all the time with the feeds you get after you post different fires and pictures. And I think I said this at FDIC this year, the big stage with Bobby and John. I don't know how you can call yourself part of our family, call yourself a brother or sister. What I don't get, we'll post a picture of a fire or a video, and the haters come out, the as Billy Goldfeder calls them, the faceless wonders, hose jockey 101 and all that stuff. And right away they go, what a bunch of effing this and that. And they don't, and I'm like, and they just, instead of just saying, well, it sure would have been nice to see, with cancer prevention now and awareness, we're trying to do this, but they get hostile and nasty, yet they wear shirts that say they're brothers and sisters. If you want to make your point, can you make it without personally going after an M&F? And I mean, I'm being nice with what people say. So I'm just saying it to our audience. If you know somebody, you need to talk to them. I mean, I had no problem talking to people saying, look, I know what brotherhood you belong to, and there's a her in my brotherhood. But if you got a problem or issue, state it, argue your case, but you don't have to go off on the threats and, scumbag M&F and this. I don't get that, But at the same time, to go out there and say something about your mayor or your chief and expect you not to get banged for that, expect you not get slapped for that. I ask guys, and I ask them in class, I said, so let me ask you this. Anybody here willing to walk up to their mayor and chief and say, you scumbag, you M&F and suck, you blah, blah, blah. And I go through the thing and they all laugh. I go, well, why not? Like, well, that's insubordination. We'll get fired. Okay, forget, but that's a bad example. Don't go up to their face. How about you mail them a letter? Well, duh. Okay, I'm sorry. So how about this? Send them an email. Oh, no, that's three best. So you wouldn't say it to their face. You wouldn't mail them a letter. You wouldn't email them. I know. Text it to them. Why don't you text it to them? Oh, another bad example. Okay. So if you wouldn't do any of that, what makes you think it's okay to enter upon a password-protected social media platform and say for the world to see? And I just see what Dave Statter calls them, what the social media career assisted suicides, where people just kill their careers. That's my run. I'm done. We got to get better out there with being more proactive about it. But the reach is phenomenal with social media, especially with Facebook. But you got to be smart. You've got to be smart. I'll throw that back to you guys.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with anything you just said there. And I think that one of the things we talk about when new hires come here is that I try to impress upon them that when you decided to be in a public servant, and especially in a fire and police department, you're a role model. Now, you may not have signed on for those reasons. That's a part of what this job is, and like it or not. And the thought that you are a role model, but you're also representing your organization 24/7. And, in the old days, it used to be, well, when I get off work, what I do on my time is my business. No, it's not. It really isn't. And that's just part of the reality of what you signed on to do. And so the fact of the matter is that I live on my street, and whether I park a fire car in front of my house or not, everyone around me knows what I do for a living. So the fact that it's Saturday afternoon and I'm not in uniform, I can't do stupid things. So, and if I'm not okay with that, I probably should rethink what I'm doing in life. And so, and I think some of that carries over to the social media and the ease at which you can get on and use it as a platform to say what you want, however you want. But man, there's that element of caution that I always tell everybody, because whatever you think sounds good in the heat of the moment, figure out what that's going to sound like an hour from now or 24 hours from now. And everybody knows once it's out there, you're not going to get it back. And so, read any journal, any publication anywhere, and you see the horror stories of a person that basically just derailed their career based on the heat of the moment and that ability to throw something out there. And, Chief, you make a good point, because we see it all the time, right? So someone, you guys show up at the station and go to the table and it's, did you see so-and-so put on Facebook last night? Oh my God, I can't believe he did that. Not one of those guys called him and said, hey man, don't do that. Or if you got a problem, call me, let's talk about this, or whatever. But all of a sudden it's become a topic for entertainment, and we all sit back and delight at the flames coming out of the back of that thing as it's heading towards the ocean. And I don't know, there's a certain amount of, I don't, like you said, we wear a shirt that says brotherhood, but we can't wait for someone to post the next thing so that it's a topic for us to enjoy. And all the way, it's like watching an alcoholic drink, but you never, step up and say, hey, listen, you got a problem, let's fix this. It's easier and more fun to sit back and watch the train wreck.
Well, and I'll give you an example with some of the areas, and I know Flower Mound's got this taken care of. I know Louisville does, because we did it and I want to throw this to Pete in a second about the reach of social media. When we talk about the ripple effects of what you're putting out there and what you're not putting out there, and so on and so forth. James Rose from Fox, you guys know him well, Terry and Brandon. He asked me to review a video cam and comment on it. There was a helmet cam video, and a young firefighter had a helmet cam, and I'm watching this, and he's riding backwards, and you can see him turn around. You see that, the header in the sky, the smoke. Okay, they got a job. They pull up, and all right, the first little thing, the smallest thing was the rig was just slowing to a stop. He stood up, which, okay, he either took his seatbelt. I'm assuming he took his seatbelt off early. Okay, he gets off. You see him pull the hose. He stretches at the front door. He flakes it out. He calls for water. Helmet upside down. He's kneeling. His hood, put his hood on. His air pack, his hood, or his face piece, his hood, everything else. His captain walks by and says, "I'll be right back." You see him walk away to do his 360. They got fire out the back, a little bit of fire out the front, one-story frame. Captain comes back. Okay, let's get it from the front. He calls, like I said, he called for water. He bleeds his line like he's supposed to. They get up their front porch. Captain says, "All right, hit it high, hit it high." He hits it high. They shut down, push it. He pushes in. I was so excited. I was in Canada watching this in my hotel room. I called James. I go, this was like a training video. This was this. Oh, I was supposed to look for something wrong with this. I said, what's wrong? He goes, well, the kid got in trouble because he didn't get permission. And I said, my first question is, what kind of imaging policy does the Dallas Fire Department have? Because I think that's your greatest pitfall for a lot of places is if you don't have an imaging/recording policy, you set yourself up for problems, whether guys are doing stuff with their cell phones or dash cams, helmet cams, all this different stuff, telephone recorders. You got to have that in there. That keeps people from recording things they shouldn't be, taking pictures of what they should be. So find yourself a good policy on an imaging/recording and implement it, because otherwise you can end up. This kid didn't really post anything wrong. It was a great video. On the other hand, a lot of other people posted some pretty stupid stuff. Pete, the ripple effect. Yeah, I mean, the one click. Let's just talk about for those that don't how far that takes us. You and I've talked about this. Okay, so you post something, what all the likes and favors and shares do to that particular post.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an instantaneous phenomenon. They call these things, disruptive technologies, and I guess it's because they disrupt the typical model of communication. But the reality is that it's gonna, those things don't. There's not a disconnect between what the effect of that communication is in the end. It's going to get out there, and I mean, it used to be, in the era of a newspaper or something, it takes X amount of time for that information to get out there, but now it's just it's instantaneous and it's all over the web and it's there ad infinitum. So I think that there's another thing beyond just policy is, as you were talking about, informing your people that, people are watching this stuff. They're watching like hawks.
Well, and they're watching and they're posting everything they see, running around the videos and everything else, and along those lines. And it's getting out there faster than the speed of light. I'll throw this to Terry does it as well with Louisville, to all three of you. But let's talk about for those that aren't that savvy when it comes to technology. One of the things that I was turned on to a while back was being able to link my account so I can only post. There's a bunch of different brands. I don't know. We don't do commercial like Hootsuite. I use a lot where I can take one thing and post it, and it hits all my social media accounts at once instead of having to go to each one and get the message out of this. But at the same time, if you post it just for Facebook, if it's not a link to like an actual link, all of a sudden on your Twitter account just says I posted on Facebook or Facebook, and they don't see it. It turns people off. So, what can someone do to make sure they're linking everything the way they should? So, one post that goes out to all their social media accounts, but at the same time, so they don't post like the blank things on Twitter. I mean, I guess that's my question to you. It would help me.
Yeah, there's a number of different platforms out there. Hootsuite, as you mentioned, you got TweetDeck. The one we use now is Buffer, but I'm not sure. Again, that's a lot of corporate stuff. Free stuff, I guess if you're using Hootsuite and that works for you, I would stay with it. But just be aware that each of these different platforms, they have different requirements for what they're trying to do, right? Your Facebook and all of them, social media as businesses, if you're thinking of them as businesses, they're designed to try and keep you engaged with their individual platform as much as possible. That's why they're constantly, their back end is changing, right? So because Facebook doesn't want you spending more time on Twitter. Twitter doesn't want you spending more time on Instagram. They're constantly on their own. They're competing for the attention share, right? That's just the way that their particular models work. So they kind of don't want those things that are going to hit all of them at the same time. So Twitter, you have your character count, right? That's its restriction. Instagram is more specific to images. Facebook has its own, particular, limitations in that. But in terms of what you're thinking about, whether you use these kind of bundle things that hit all the different social media platforms or you're going individually one-to-one, you got to think of what you're trying to achieve with each post or with the use of the technology, right? And gear whatever you're doing towards that.
Well, that's like Brandon with Flower Mound with when you talked that one simple PSA with the smoke detector fairy. There was one message there, several different points being made, not just changing batteries, checking detectors, all the rest of that stuff, but exactly, it was that time. It's getting ready. It's we're all trying to. I used to try and write a calendar ahead of time, so we weren't going. Oh, next week is national preparedness week. We ought to be ready, and the next thing you know, we're already. It's already past us. It's already done. Terry, you brought something up, and this goes back to I think Brandon said internal, external customer. Terry, you brought up the whole YouTube thing. That Houston's doing something pretty cool. We talked about this on the telephone. You want to share that?
Yeah, the other day, I was just, however, I stumbled upon it. But so, one of the things that we used to do, very regularly was that when a person was retiring, especially, one of your legacy members, but, someone sit down and try to gather from him as much institutional stuff as we can find. So, aggregate the data, try to get it either in written format or something, but in some way so that someone doesn't leave your building and they take everything with them that might be valuable to pass on. So anyway, the other day I stumbled upon Houston. They have a guy who's sitting down with a lot of their legacy members and basically doing that, recording an hour with them of just stuff. What was it like when you got here, and what's your thoughts now? What will you pass on to somebody new? If you had a recruit class in front of you today, what are you going to tell them? It's stuff about their districts. It's stuff about it's really unique, and I think it's a fabulous tool to use. But the beauty of all of it is it's free. It's free, and you can do it with a phone, a YouTube account, and you've archived it. And every member can watch it no matter where they are. So those are the things that are really, I think, exciting. And I think at this point are so underutilized, these tools for every department, big and small. This is one thing that I like about what Flower Mound's been doing is because they're active and they're utilizing these tools. Brandon, you fill in a role as a PIO there. So in utilizing a lot of this stuff, you said something earlier that I wanted to hit on was that you and Chief kind of exchanged the process or responsibility of vetting each other to make sure that what goes out is quality and that it's accurate, because Chief hit on it earlier. If we put the video out there and the guy stood up 2 seconds before the rig stopped, it doesn't matter what else is on the video. Did you see when he stood up? That's what we harp on. That's what we focus on. So, Brandon, in the process, you guys use a media team within your city, which does a phenomenal job. But let's talk a little bit about that, about making sure that the message is the message that you intend.
Absolutely. So yes, obviously, I kind of fill them in like, hey, this is the pitch, what we're doing because we do a monthly TV program called Hot Topics. So, hey, this is kind of the topic matter. This is the angle we're shooting for. And then once that video is ready, then he and I both review it, and we make sure that, we're checking for content, but also for message. And then as simple as, you talk about the haters out there kind of trolling your sites, even down, we did a vehicle extrication episode one time. Well, somebody's like, well, they're not wearing adequate PPE. And it's like, okay, those are clear safety glasses. They're ANSI, OSHA, what do you want? Oh, well, we couldn't see them because of the lighting. Sorry, our bad. But, we're making sure that nothing's overlooked in our video, even to that point, PPE on whether it's live fire, vehicle extrication. Even we did an EMS one, making sure everybody had the appropriate BSI protection on, just so even though it was with a mannequin, nobody would say, oh, they're not treating it real. And again, like we kind of talked earlier, even the post, maybe the resolution looked one way on a desktop or a cell phone when we were going to post that item or picture, video, whatever, and making sure that it's still looking good for everybody else. But yeah, you gotta watch each other, make sure we don't lose sight of the mission, we don't lose sight of the message, we don't lose sight of some of that quality control in the video, and it's a team effort all around, from internal and with our communications folks.
Well, and those are great points, Bobby. Chief Halton, folks. Chief Bobby Halton joined us. Bobby tries to hit all the shows, especially this one. Bobby, welcome, buddy. We obviously were reminding folks early on about the FDIC deadline being Friday, and we'll do that again at the end here. But I don't know if you caught. I know we were having some technical problems for a little bit. Fire engineering. We've been talking about Flower Mound, and I was bragging on Flower Mound and Arvada because those are two. We've seen them. They're for fire departments. Their Facebook pages, their Twitter, their social media is incredible. But fire engineering, when it comes to our industry, and I know I'm very partial, but if you want to see what's going on, you don't have to go very far. If you don't have their webpage that you're going to, then you got your Twitter account. If you don't have that, you got the Facebook page. If you don't have that, you've got the bulletins and the newsletters being sent to you. If you don't have, and I'm missing about 50 other things probably. That's just, and that we talk about, that's just good leadership. That's good bosses. Obviously you're in that industry, but there's some people that don't do shit. They don't do anything to promote what they're doing. Fire engineering is always cutting edge. They're always out there. Talk about, I want to get to this before we lose out of the time. Where do you see the whole drone thing going? We're talking technology, Bobby, and social media, but let's do real quick what we got you. A lot of stuff on drones, a lot of good stuff, and then there's some people fumbling a little bit, but your thoughts on that, buddy?
Thank you for asking. The drone topic in particular is my audio okay? I'm sorry. I had some technical difficulties. I rearranged my settings on my computer. I apologize. Can you hear me okay?
Here we go, Bobby. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Can you hear? Are you messing with me?
No, you sound great, buddy. You sound great.
Today is the second happiest day of my life. So we just got back from the surgeon. So. Oh, God bless you. So and that's to my point. Some of what we're doing. So it's fascinating. When it comes to social media, in particular, what we do here at Fire Engineering and stuff is it's much easier for us to manage, if you will, our intake and our output and our intake because we're a business, right? We're promoting the fire service and we're providing information to the fire service, but we're basically a business to customer kind of model where the firefighter is the customer, fire engineering and FDIC, and although we're deeply entwined with all that from a very personal and intimate way, we're also less prone to hit some of the landmines that we see other folks hitting with social media. To that point, I think as it becomes more and more refined, I think we're going to see it become less and less the minefield that it's been, and I think people are going to become more intelligent about the way that they manage it. But to drones specifically, what we're seeing with the explosion of drone usage is twofold. First, it's a great tool. You can get tremendous information, large area searches, downriver, et cetera, inarguably a wonderful, wonderful tool. Irrespective of all the good, just like with everything in life, there is a downside, right? Whether it's the First Amendment, free speech, you're going to hurt somebody's feelings, make people feel bad. Whether it's gun rights, you can protect yourself, but then people can do bad things. Whether it's the right of association, people can belong to bad groups. So everything in life, no matter what it is, has an upside and a downside. You're born and you die, right? Same thing with drones. So we can garner all this wonderful information. But at the same time, what we found from a pretty good study done by Dr. Woods and some of his colleagues in 2009, I think. Anyway, Woods, I'll post it online. I'll have Pete post a link to the study online. The ability of incident commanders to make decisions when drone footage was being inputted to them directly. They did 8 incident commanders, good people, on a simulated industrial fire, and they gave them drone footage to help them make their decisions. 7 of the 8 who had been considered absolutely stellar, nearly flawless performers were unable to perform effectively during that simulation because they needed the drone footage to confirm their decision-making process. In other words, they kept waiting for confirmation via the drone, and they kept ignoring other more traditional inputs like radio messages and pre-fire plans and just information that was readily available to them through the normal sources of channels. So a couple of things could have done this, right? It could have been the newness and the overemphasis on the new technology. It could have been the visual input is so strong in our neural processing. So there's many, many ways to look at why this phenomenon may have occurred. But the fact that it occurred is very important for us to take forward as we implement drones into our decision-making process. And I think that we're going to see that. The other thing about drones, and I'll let folks know, we're going to be doing a great deal of work here at Fire Engineering FDIC about drones technology, what I like to call emerging technology. Some people call it next-gen technology. I think it's really emerging technology, and technology is always emerging, but this stuff is particularly interesting to us in its applicability to what we do as a profession. So that being said, we're going to do a lot of work with this in the future. You can't just buy a drone and throw it up in the air. There's licensing requirements, even for us. And so although you may be a fire department, and you think, well, we're doing our fire safety day and we're going to fly our drone over it, that's illegal. There's called a COA, which is a certificate of authority to fly. There's a process you have to go through. The FAA is looking at it, and although they've let up in certain areas, they've actually become more stringent in other areas. And it's a huge issue for the other commercial aircraft that's in the air, these drones. So we're going to see it become, I believe, more prevalent in its usage. But I believe that the intelligent firefighters, the smart firefighters, the serious firefighters, the people who really want to know the gouge, those cats are going to be looking at how do we integrate this into the decision-making process in a way that it doesn't impede, but rather enhances our ability on the fire ground. Sorry for the long, wonky answer, but I think it's a really important piece of news that we need to be on top of, we need to be moving forward on, and we're doing a tremendous amount of research and work here at Fire Engineering. We actually have a cadre of people from the FAA, NASA, the Air Force Applied Research Institute, DARPA, and some other places that are helping us to try to formulate what the fire service should be looking at, thinking about, and doing with this. Our antiquated incident command system will probably be greatly affected by it. This old-fashioned model of the incident commander and all of that gibberish, which is a holdover from the 1940s, and God bless the 40s. But obviously antiquated given today's technology and communications and what we know about neural processing and everything else. I think it's going to help to revolutionize, push that forward, and get away from this silly notion of the first due assuming command, which is absolutely the dopiest thing we've ever done since 1950. Sorry.
Well, like I said, it's just something that we've seen some people get in trouble over, but some other people have used it actually fairly well. To be honest, when you do the Periscope, we're talking social media a little bit. A lot of the guys that do all the filming, the photos, the buffs in the Detroit area. There's a couple that if you're watching them, all of a sudden they'll go live with a fire, and if it's decent, all of a sudden next thing they launch a drone, and the footage. I'll be honest with you, some of the footage is pretty incredible, and I'm like, if I was sitting there and I had the ability to utilize everything else going on, what I'm hearing on the radios and the rest of the stuff, and get a topside view, side or whatever, utilizing all that. But I agree with you, Bobby. If we don't use it and if we don't practice with it, then you get the guys that freeze up and go, I can't do it. I'm missing this, I'm missing that. Where I'm like, we used to think taking a picture with a phone and being able to zap it to someone real quick and go, okay, I'm sending it to you now, was cool. This is going to be, once you learn how to use it, that much better.
Well, in an area, Chief, that we see, and Chief touched on it earlier, and I think it's that analysis paralysis, because once you get outside of that model of how you've been operating, but we can see that almost daily in our dispatch centers. We're so reliant on the technology that when that technology fails, albeit briefly in most instances, but 20 minutes CAD goes down. And of course,
wait a second, I want to use my technology to capture that thought.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there's an iPad. So we see that. I think we see that so much now, Chief, is that, I think the military, I'm not a fighter pilot. I think Chief Halton can certainly speak to this, but they still teach those people how to fly, and they still teach those people how to do close combat. Now, a majority of them obviously are trying to do that from where they're not even in line of sight before they're launching a missile and shooting something out of the sky. But they still have to know the fundamentals, and you still have to go back and rely on those.
And oddly enough, they do use iPads for navigation. They actually download the nav charts when they're doing navigation off of iPads. And so, great point. But you're exactly right. The default in the modern human condition, if you will, post-industrial revolution, is that we can develop a technology that's going to be A, flawless, B, reduce the incidence of failure, and C, solve some kind of very complex and interesting problem. But what we know since Charles Perrow wrote Normal Accidents in 1984 is that it really just provides another pathway to failure, as well as enhancing safety sometimes. But you've got to be careful about it, as Terry just said. It's not, everything has a good side and a dark side. Literally everything except chocolate.
Well, hey, Brandon, you wanted to jump in there with a couple things too. I don't know if it's something new coming down the road, a flower mount, or some other things. Go ahead, buddy.
Oh, absolutely. Are we done on the drone topic? Or?
Yeah. Well, if you want to keep going.
Oh, I know we've used drones a lot, really for large area search, water search, stuff like that. The capabilities of the thermal cameras now on drones, and seeing how they've even been used in fires.
Did you do that? Did you do that with the missing kid and dad over there along Denton Creek when we had the fatality with the dad, but we found the boy?
Yes, sir, we did. And one of the things that we had the benefit with the drone, especially that night over the DPS helicopter, was we have a longer loiter time, longer on station time, quicker back in service time, and the FLIR capabilities and just the ability to get so low and hover was amazing. We were seeing anything from bunny rabbits to hogs and coyotes. The only thing is we couldn't find that child that first night while he was curled up asleep in the woods. But his heat signature would have been so small we probably thought it was a rabbit. But yeah, the amount of time that we were able to have, even the post-incident analysis on that of where all the flight path data was on where those drones went. I mean, it showed that we covered so much ground, and we have a very resource-rich region. So we have a actual UAS unmanned aerial system response team in North Central Texas that we can call upon and have tons and tons of assets in the air. But one thing when you were talking about Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, all that stuff right now, as far as for departments that maybe don't have robust communications divisions or other folks to help them out, Facebook right now has put so much money into Facebook Live that the analytics are showing that they will push most of those posts to the top. And we've been getting some information actually. Excuse me, you mentioned Arlington PD. They've kind of put out a product list of a lot of that iPhone-based camera equipment you can use for light, sound, tripods, everything. Everything's kind of Bluetooth, whatever. And so we've actually been working on purchasing some of that. So we're going to begin doing some of our own videos, quick Facebook Live videos of some trainings, maybe some of our own little quick press releases at incidents. The fire in the middle of the night and there's 3 lightning strike fires around in the area, so the news crews are going to call you later, so you might as well have your thing prepackaged, doing that Facebook Live, and it'll also push it to the top of folks' news feeds if they follow your agency.
Well, and I realize that that's how far behind I am. When you said that, during the PIA, or you could go back and look and see where you actually covered. I mean, that's not going to be a big deal when you're at a fire scene per se, but when you're doing a large area search like you're doing for a missing kid, or you got a silver alert with someone with Alzheimer's or whatever, you're looking for that missing senior citizen, to be able to see where you've covered and where you haven't is huge. And I again, that's just me. I never thought of that. So,
the amount of hours we logged and the amount of territory that we covered, and then plus we're doing that with the overlay with the canine teams, they were GPS tracked, and so it's like, well, we covered every spot we could think of at that point. Post finding the child come daylight first thing, and then you can say, okay, we've pretty much ruled out where the other person's going to be at this point.
Exactly. Terry, you said you've got you got someone running one over there?
No, Chief Richards is on his hobby, his personal hobby. So he has his license. He's pretty accomplished pilot. He does some pretty incredible stuff. So we've regionally we've had several meetings where they brought some industry experts in, and so we're trying to formulate a plan. And so I think Brandon, who is at Argyle, I think Chris Muscle out there.
One Johnson County and and Mansfield down in that area, they kind of started the team, and then so other agencies that have been purchasing drones have been kind of going into them.
And so, and Chief, they're approaching it a lot like everything else. They've made themselves available. If you need them, they'll come out. So it's already an established resource, albeit it's not as saturated as it will be. But we're looking. Police fire in Louisville is looking at it. We've had the conversation with city management, and it'll happen. We're just working through all the nuances.
Well, and I think Pete had a question. Pete, was your question for Brandon on whether it's a regional team or not?
Yeah, I was just wondering how, because it's fascinating to me how these things are going to be implemented over time and seeing how different, because, you know, like an FDNY, or I know City of Los Angeles is looking now to establish these drone teams. And I guess for larger departments, it's easy to have those resources, and how a somewhat smaller department does that. That's interesting to me, just how you would go about it.
Yeah, so the team is made up of individuals from various agencies within the region, and then, you know, those agencies sponsor that individual, but they have an official, unofficial type team that can respond, and then they come in their department vehicle with their department drone and participate basically mutual aid style.
Well, we're closing in. Like we talk about this every show, how fast the time flies. This hour just flies by. It truly does. And another great conversation. Let's do this as we're looking to kind of close things out here. We'll go through Brandon, then we'll get Pete, then Terry, and Bobby, obviously. But Brandon, let's hit you. You're PIO, emergency management with Flower Mound. Very progressive community, very progressive boss and chief greaser, great fire department. What advice, you're sitting in a room and, a bunch of guys start talking and they're all like, hey, I just got promoted. I'm going to be doing the PIO stuff. What advice would you give? Let's talk, whether it's social media, drone work, whatever. What advice do you give that new PIO out there?
Stay relevant, stay proactive, try to keep your pages up to date, posted, keep people intrigued to follow your page. Only talk about what you can own. Don't talk, if it's a joint incident, a unified incident, not your incident, don't talk or assume any other stuff. Defer. Don't be afraid to defer to that other agency's point of contact or PIO. Only talk to what you can own to, and use technology, absolutely, because like I've said a couple of times, that's about one of the only key ways anymore to really get your public education message out is through social media, whether it be the different applications. And like, a whole nother discussion is which application is better suited for which use. Facebook can tell more of a story. Twitter can tell more of the breaking news, and the list goes on and on from there. So just stay
right there
and talking to all those other, all your peers. Success in government through plagiarism. Talk to your peers, and if it works good for them, it'll probably work good for you.
I like that. The Twitter with the breaking news and the Facebook telling the story. Pete, like I said, cutting edge fire engineering always is. They're always out in front. What advice do you obviously talk to you help me all the time, by the way, I said that earlier, but what advice do you give these chiefs and these guys that are out there they're trying to push their message out?
I would just say that keep in mind that all these technologies, drones, social media, whatever they are, they're tools, right? They're just tools, and the onus is on you to figure out how to implement them. But don't be afraid of the technology. I think an interesting thing that I think Terry mentioned was just that we teach people how to deal without the technology, right? Just in case it breaks down. Technology breaks down, you figure out that plan B, the fallback. And bringing that back into social media, and Chief Holland does a series on this, is that breakdown in social media. There was forms of social media before there was social media technology, right? And it's that basic civility, right? And Chief Holland does that video thing. That stuff remains the same whether there he is, old George. That stuff remains constant. That's just human interaction. So we just got to apply the basic norms of, technology doesn't mean that it disrupts the basic human discourse. So, just keep all those kind of common sense things in mind, and just use the technology as a tool. Make of the tool what you will.
Great message, great point. Bobby, same thing, buddy.
Hey, well, a couple of things real quick, and I know folks need to go grab lunch or finish lunch or whatever. First of all, the guy who you just heard talking there, Pete Proclio, one of the most amazing folks at Fire Engineering, FDIC, Firefighter Nation that you'll ever want to meet. Together with Bill Carey and Chris McClune, they create our whole web presence in there. But under Pete's leadership and tutelage, it's the most amazing group of guys, and Pete and Bill, who really, do yeoman's work with engineering and the nation, and then Chris carries apparatus. But Pete is a brilliant guy, a sensitive guy, and when you look at that site, that's Pete. I mean, just an amazing leader, an amazing man, just an amazing cat to be able to hang out with. So I hope we see more of him doing more of this, because I think he's got tons to share. So the other thing I want to throw out real quick is Marco Polo. So one of the problems with social media that I've seen, and I think is being remedied by social media, or at least by an electronic device, Marco Polo is an app that you can download. It's free, but you can create groups. So you can share your personal stuff with people who you should share your personal stuff with, and not the entire world, right? So like if you want to talk to your brothers and sisters about how angry you are with mom and dad, or you want to talk about, Aunt Sally's goiter surgery or whatever the heck, do it there. Don't do it in the Twitterverse where people are going to take it and run with it and do untoward things with it. And I think that's going to help to do some stuff where social media has been a place where bullies have been able to congregate and aggregate and be awful, right? And I think that with apps like Marco Polo, we're going to be able to get back into some of that privacy that's so lacking. Although it's electronic and capturable and all that other good stuff, dig Marco Polo. I'm very hip to it. I put my friends on it so I can talk to them with video messaging, and it's absolutely cool. The second thing I want to do is the other thing I want to do is a quick shout out to my fellow Albuquerque firefighter, Aaron Markland. He's an Albuquerque firefighter, originally from San Diego, but he's a real musician, and he's got his second album out, and it's called Tide Break. It's a summer album, and it's really cool. He's kind of got that kind of surfer laid-back sound going there, California tunes and all that good stuff. But Aaron Markland, Albuquerque firefighter, he has an album out. Check it out, dig it, go to his site. Absolutely cool dude, absolutely amazing album. Just released it, just in time for the summer. So dig that. And please, if you're thinking about coming to FDIC, if you think you have something to share, here's your chance to do it. And if we get your submission and we can't fit you into the show, there's your way to channel yourself into our writers and readers and contributors. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has something to say. And everybody's opinions and thoughts matter, and they're going to be respected here at Fire Engineering and Firefighter Nation and Fire Rescue and FDIC in particular. We might disagree with you. I think Lasky's an idiot, but I'd never say that publicly. I'm just kidding. But you know what I mean? We'll have fun, but we'll and fun is part of it. I hope we never get so PC that we can't goof around with each other, right? There's very few people I love as much as I love Rick Lasky, and which is why I just said that. But there's nobody I respect more than Rick Lasky. So please, if you're thinking about submitting, you got like a couple of days left. We'd love to hear from you, Terry McGrath. You're a slacker. You're a ne'er-do-well. I better see your name on one of those things. So anyway. I thank you so much for the time. God bless.
Well, and Bobby, we talked about it earlier about FDIC, and one of the things I always mention to some of our listeners, our viewers, is one of your best ways. I know we all look at all us that review the classes. Write an article, get it published on the web, get it published in the mag, one of the mags, whatever, one of the websites. I know I look for it. I always look for someone that says, this class is based on the article that was published in Fire Engineering, Fire Rescue, Fire Apparatus Journal, whatever. There's just a hint for you that we want to see that you've done that before. And Bobby, I'm pushing Terry. I push Terry. He needs to get on with Andy Ellison. They need to tie that. He needs to be. I know we don't do a lot of co-teaching, but Terry needs to be in there with Andy, because everything that they've done together, everything that Terry's done for Andy, the whole point of that whole program, the support, everything we talked about, you had him on the show here with, Andy, we talked about his injuries. So Terry, get that turned in with you and Andy. All right, buddy. So,
and one final thought, Terry. Seriously, to Rick's point, and one final point, and kind of explain the stupid smile on my face. The person I love the most in the whole wide world got some great news today, and my wife, and who I've been with for 44 years this August, and is going to be okay after a very, very significant illness. And so we just found out this morning, and it's the same thing with time. We almost lost her, and I couldn't imagine a day without her, right? And the fire service can't imagine a day without you, whoever you are, whoever's listening to me right now. You have something so amazing to share, and somebody who needs to hear it. So, whether it's Terry or Aaron with his album, or Peter or all of us, and we can't fit everybody in. But if you can get there, you can share it. We'll find a way to get to you. We're always looking for contributors on the nation and on engineering, and I don't know. I want to thank everybody who helped us over the last few months, and we're very private people, so my wife's probably gonna be mad at me for even saying it, but man, I'll tell you, I thank you.
Hey, I said it before, Bobby, because I know we weren't really out there saying things to give you your privacy, you and Marcia, the lovely Marcia, but prayer works, and you and I are fierce believers in that. Prayer works. One last thing before we sign off here, folks. Bill Carey wanted to mention, this is a great point. You know what? We didn't bring it up because we have so much to talk about, but you've heard me talk about it as well. Don't be in such a rush with the whole social media thing to push out a line of duty death. Let those agencies, you'll see me post when I know for sure something has happened. The only thing I'll post is thoughts and prayers are with the such and such department, if I even post that. I know one particular metro department, they had a double line of duty death, and one of the wives found out about it via, you know which one, Bobby, via Facebook. So, sometimes we're all too quick to jump out there and post something. Billy G's very good about vetting his information. There's been times I've emailed him or called him. He goes, yeah, but I'm waiting to talk to the chief. You can end up doing something really damaging. So great comment by Bill. Great point by Bill Carey. Bobby mentioned Mario. Bill's awesome. Another one the great teammates that he has on his great team. So Terry, one last comment, buddy. I know this was your baby, and I know, like I said, you're the one guy I know that the Geek Squad calls for advice when it comes to anything.
Well, I kind of to echo what Pete said earlier. These are tools, but I think they are phenomenal. And it's funny. My father's like 87 years old, and so it's the joke of the family as to who's going to sit down with him and explain something about the iPad or whatever, because he's from a different time, and it's easy. What comes easy for me because I like it or I'm interested. But I make that point to say that I think far too often we have especially in administration is hesitant about trying something because they don't understand it. I can assure you, if you don't understand it, there's someone under the age of 30 in your organization who does. Give them a chance and sit down, and because I'm telling you, there's so many tools at your disposal to help you, whether you're marketing your department, you're educating your department, or you're educating the public. They're free, easy to use, and do something like Flower Mound has done, and really get creative with it. And I think you'll find that it's a tremendous asset to the services you can offer.
Oh, great point. Great point. Bobby's got more of the great team in there with him in the office at the Penwell International Headquarters, coming live from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
That's it. That's Andy, the new boss of our book division. So, and of course, everybody knows Mark, the man, the myth, the legend.
How's it going?
Lead guitarist from Caroline Spine.
Well, and then Mark does. Mark, we've done great stuff with Mark with videos and audiobooks and on and on and on and on, all the great things. Andy pushed out. Here's another thing we're doing. We've mentioned this before on the show. Fire Engineering's, their video streaming project. I refer to it as Netflix for firefighters because it's freaking incredible. If I was a training chief again, I would have this program. I'm telling you, my department. So great idea, great stuff. So more of the great team. Or the great team. So, hey, let's do this. Let's go around. Brandon, if somebody want to reach out to you, maybe an email, give you a call or whatever, maybe shoot an email and say, look, I got some questions about something you talked about in the show, or can you help me just figure this whole thing out? You've been doing it with some success. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you, buddy?
Absolutely. Shoot me an email. It's Brandon, common spelling, .barth, B as in boy, ARTH, @flower-mound.com.
Well, say hi to everybody from Flower Mound. Tell them I love them. We got a great department, got great leadership. I miss them. Great guys. Pete, if they want to get a hold of you, buddy, well, I have all your phone numbers, but what email probably the best for you, bud?
Yeah, you can get me at any time. It's Peter P @pennwell.com. PNNWELL.com.
Well, perfect.
Thank you, Pete, for having me on.
Oh, you guys are awesome. And, we know Bobby's at Robert H. at Pennwell.com. Then you've got.
No, Ricky, I'm not. I'm at Bobby Halton at Pennwell.com.
You are?
I haven't been at Robert H. for about a year. That's why I'm not answering your email.
What the hell? You're Bobby what now?
Just Bobby Halton at Pennwell.com.
This dang technology. Christmas.
Get with the program, Lasky.
We used to tease you because it was, remember me and John, when you first, over 10 years, you started to go, Robert H. So finally, Bobby Halton at Pennwell.com. Okay.
Golly, send him a tweet, would you?
Terry,
I intentionally didn't tell anybody. It cut down my email dramatically.
Terry, what email, buddy?
First initial, last name, T. McGrath @cityoflouisville.com.
And I'm easy at 5alarmleadership@gmail.com. Guys, thank you so much. Terry and I, like I said, for this particular topic, Terry said, hey, I got a great idea. We're usually bouncing ideas off each other. So wish we had more time. You guys are awesome. Pete, thank you. Brandon, thank you. Pete, thank you for everything you've done for me over the years and continue to do. Brandon, it was great being able to visit with you. Flower Mound, Texas. Visit their Facebook page or Twitter account. Again, FDIC this Friday. Get your stuff in. Visit the page. If you've already got it in, get connected, reconnected. Put the apps on your phone. There's a lot of great stuff coming out of the Pennwell division. No matter what particular branch you listen to, it's all great stuff. So with that, our next show is July 19th. We're going to ask our guests to stay on the line with us here. July 19th, Terry and I'll be back with another great group. You can always catch some great shows. Wednesdays here, 12 p.m. Central, 1 o'clock Eastern, and get to interact with some great people. In closing, we always finish out with this. Please keep the men and women serving in armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. And remember,
and Ricky, tell guys to go to Bird's Eye View Project and donate $5 because they're throwing me out of a plane on September 20th.
Oh, that's right. They're throwing Bobby out of a plane, I think, without a parachute or with a parachute. Well, you'll have a parachute? Okay, good.
I won't. I'll be just strapped to somebody who I hope does.
So say that again, Bobby. What's that site again?
The Bird's Eye View Project. If you go to my site, we'll be putting up a Twitter about it. But we're looking for donations. It's to help wounded veterans and wounded firefighters and law enforcement officers, whether those wounds be from burns or mental health issues. They've teamed up with the Rosecrans folks. But we started off. It was Sons of the Flag. It was primarily for burns and those types of injuries for firefighters and military. But we've kind of expanded the mission a little bit. But please. You can give as little as $5 or as much as you want, and I'm trying to raise $10,000 for the veterans by getting thrown out of an airplane.
Very cool. Awesome project, buddy. You're always doing something, bud. And that just, like I said, it goes right back to where we're finishing things with never forgetting means never forgetting. Remember those words, please. We end all of our shows, whether it's a Humpday Hangout or if you're with us on our radio shows or whatever, with two very important words, and that's be safe. God bless you, folks. Take care.